My name is Daniel Hutchinson. I am 48 years old, and for the last 15 years I have been running a chain of fast food restaurants across 3 different states. I did not inherit anything. I started with a single small burger place and worked myself to the bone until I built it up to 27 locations. From the outside, my life looked solid. I had a house, a business, a wife, and 4 kids. My wife's name is Melissa. We had Braden, who is 17, Olivia, who is 15, Colton, who is 12, and our youngest, Sophie, who just turned 9. At least, that is what I believed back then, before everything came crashing down. A few months ago, Melissa came home from one of her conferences looking like a completely different person. She was glowing, like she had just figured out the secret to being happy. She had new clothes, her makeup was perfect, and she moved around the house humming to herself like she did not have a care in the world. I should have felt glad for her. I tried to, but something about it did not sit right with me. Then the lab results came in, and that glow disappeared like someone flipped a switch. Looking back, I can see where things started to go wrong. When you build a business from nothing, it takes over your life. Working 60 hours a week becomes normal. Missing family dinners stops feeling like a big deal. You tell yourself you are doing it for your family, and maybe that is true, but it still costs you. Over time, Melissa took on more and more at home. She handled the kids, the school stuff, the schedules, everything. I told myself she was just being supportive. I did not notice when she stopped complaining about how much I was gone. I did not question why she suddenly seemed so understanding about my weekend trips for work. She had always been involved with the kids' school, parent meetings, fundraisers, teacher conferences. She was always there. I thought it made her feel useful while I focused on growing the business. And honestly, I was thankful. Having someone hold things together at home let me focus on expansion without worrying about what was happening behind me. But there were signs. I just chose not to see them. She started dressing differently for those school events. Instead of her usual jeans and sweaters, she wore expensive designer outfits. Her makeup looked professionally done, not just something quick before heading out the door. She started wearing a new perfume that smelled like it cost more than I wanted to think about. When I complimented her, she would smile and say she just wanted to look nice around the other parents. Then there were the overnight trips. She called them educational conferences for parent volunteers. She said they helped her support the kids better. These trips came up every few months, usually in cities not too far away. She always came back full of energy, talking about new ideas and programs. I told myself it was a good thing. I thought she had found something that gave her purpose. My dad, Robert, is 72 years old. He is still sharp, still paying attention to everything around him. Last summer, we were sitting on his back porch, having a couple of beers, when he brought it up. "Danny," he said, using the name he has called me since I was a kid, "are you really paying attention to what is going on at home?" I told him everything was fine. I said Melissa was just busy with the kids' school. He looked at me in a way I could not ignore. "I have seen a lot of marriages," he said. "When a woman suddenly changes how she looks and starts going places without her husband, there is usually a reason." I brushed him off. I told him things were different now, that people had their own lives, their own interests. I even said I was proud of Melissa for having something of her own. Now I understand he was not being old-fashioned. He was trying to protect me. One of his close friends, Thomas Walker, had also started acting strange around that time. He had been canceling their weekly poker nights and coming up with weak excuses. At the time, I did not think much of it. I should have. The kids seemed fine. Braden was doing well in his final year of high school and already talking about college. Olivia was busy with drama club and always had friends over. Colton and Sophie were just being kids, arguing about homework and video games. Our house felt normal, but that normal feeling was something I had built in my own head. While I was focused on profits and opening new locations, everything around me was quietly falling apart, and the person I trusted the most was the one behind it. The weekend Melissa went to a conference in Indianapolis should have been the moment I woke up. She had been talking about that trip for weeks. She said it was a 3-day event for parent advocates, a big opportunity to connect with education professionals from across the region. That Friday morning, she got up early and packed while humming to herself. She seemed more excited than usual. Her suitcase was carefully arranged. I noticed outfits I had never seen before. And there was expensive lingerie in there that did not make sense for someone staying alone in a hotel room. When I asked about it, she laughed it off. "I just want to make a good impression." she said while putting on more makeup than I had seen her wear in a long time. These events are about building connections. She kissed me goodbye and said she would call once she got there. Then she left, and I stayed home with the kids. That part was not unusual. I had handled weekends alone plenty of times. But when she came back on Sunday evening, something felt off. She walked through the door like she was floating. Her face had this calm, satisfied look I had not seen in years. Her hair was perfect. Her clothes were neat, like she had not spent hours traveling. She looked fulfilled. "How was the conference?" I asked. "It was amazing," she said, almost like she was daydreaming. "Honestly, it changed everything. I learned so much." She started talking about new teaching ideas and ways to support students. But the way she said it felt practiced, like she had memorized it. The details were vague, full of general phrases without anything real behind them. That night, she acted different with me too. She was more affectionate than she had been in a long time. She initiated things instead of pulling away. Lying there afterward, I tried to convince myself it was a good sign, that maybe the trip had brought something back into her life. But deep down, I knew something was not right. The clothes, the makeup, the energy she came home with, it did not match a weekend spent sitting in conference rooms. Still, I pushed those thoughts away. I told myself I was imagining things, that I should be happy she had found something that made her feel alive again. I should have trusted my gut. 3 weeks after that trip, I could not ignore it anymore. The feeling in my stomach would not go away, and my father's words kept coming back to me. So I made a call. A friend of mine, Stephen, had once mentioned a private investigator named Richard Sullivan. I reached out and met him at a small diner outside town. I felt stupid even sitting there. "I feel ridiculous doing this," I told him. He looked at me calmly and said, "Most men who sit across from me already know what is going on. They just need proof." I hired him that same day. 5 days later, he called me. "Your wife has been seeing 2 different men," he said. My chest tightened. "One of them is a teacher at your daughter's school. His name is Andrew Kane. The other is an older man named Thomas Walker." Thomas, my father's friend, a man who had been around my family for years. Someone my kids knew, someone I trusted. "Are you sure?" I asked, hoping there had been a mistake. "There is no mistake," Sullivan said. "We have hotel footage of them checking in together last month. The same weekend your wife said she was at a conference." It felt like I had been hit by a truck. This was not just my wife lying to me. This was someone I had welcomed into my home, sitting at my table, laughing with my kids, all while betraying me. Sullivan kept talking. "The situation with the teacher is more recent. They meet for coffee, then spend hours at his apartment. We have seen your wife's car there multiple times during school hours. Andrew Kane had taught Olivia the year before. I had trusted him to help my daughter succeed in school. How long has this been going on?" I asked. "With the teacher, around 8 months, he said. "With the older man, it goes back much further. Possibly years." Years. While I was working non-stop to build a future for my family, my wife had been building something else entirely behind my back. All those conferences, meetings, and trips were not what I thought they were. They were excuses. "I need proof," I said. "Something solid." "I am already working on it," he replied. "But you should prepare yourself. This is more complicated than it looks." After I hung up, I sat in my office staring at a picture of my family. For kids smiling like everything was perfect. A wife whose smile I no longer understood. That night, I could barely look at Melissa. Every word she said felt fake. Every laugh sounded forced. 2 months later, I had everything I needed to expose her lies. But before I confronted her, there was one more thing I had to know. I needed to know the truth about my kids. Getting a DNA test is not hard anymore. I ordered a kit online and collected samples without anyone noticing. A glass, a hairbrush, a toothbrush, a juice box. Simple things. The results came in on a Tuesday morning. I opened the envelope in my office, my hands shaking. Colton and Sophie were mine. But when I got to the rest of the report, everything inside me stopped cold. Braden and Olivia were not biologically mine. I read that page once, then again, then one more time. I kept waiting for my eyes to correct themselves, like maybe I had misunderstood something. But the words stayed the same every time. The 2 children I had raised for 17 and 15 years had no genetic connection to me at all. Once that truth finally landed, pieces from the past started lining up in a way that made me sick. When I thought about Braden's face, I could suddenly see Thomas Walker in him. The eyes, the shape of the jaw, even the way he held himself sometimes. I had never really let myself notice it before. And Olivia's artistic side, the part of her I had always assumed came from Melissa's family, took on a different meaning too. The timing fit in a way that turned my stomach. Braden was born around the same time Thomas's marriage fell apart, and he began spending more time around our house. Olivia came along during the years when Melissa got deeply involved in school activities and started forming close relationships with teachers and staff. That night, after Colton and Sophie were asleep, I asked Melissa to sit down with me in the living room. Braden and Olivia were both upstairs, doing homework, completely unaware that their lives were about to change. "We need to talk," I said. I placed the DNA papers on the coffee table between us. The second Melissa looked at them, all the color drained from her face. The confidence she had been carrying around for months disappeared instantly. What took its place was pure fear. "Danny, I can explain," she said. I raised my hand and stopped her. "No more lies," I said. "I know about Thomas. I know about Andrew Kane. I know about the hotels, the fake conferences, the whole thing." She opened her mouth, then shut it again. For once, she knew there was no smooth way out of it. No excuse was going to fix what had already been exposed. For the first time in our marriage, she was the one with nowhere to run. "The only question now," I said, keeping my voice steady, "is whether you are going to tell the kids the truth or whether I am." She started crying. Not quiet tears. Not the kind that come from guilt. These were desperate, panicked sobs from someone who had finally been cornered. "Please do not ruin this family," she whispered. I stood up and looked down at her. "You ruined this family," I said. "You ruined it the moment you decided I was not enough and started building another life behind my back." The woman who had come home from that Indianapolis trip, glowing and full of confidence, was gone. Sitting in front of me now was somebody scared, broken, and out of excuses. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was looking at the real Melissa. The next morning, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to my attorney. The second was to my dad, just to warn him that something ugly was coming. The third was to Thomas Walker. When he answered, he sounded relaxed. "Hey, Danny, what is going on?" "Meet me at Murphy's bar at noon," I told him. "What is this about?" he asked. "You will find out when you get there." Murphy's was mostly empty at that hour. A couple of men sat at the far end of the bar watching a game with the sound off, and the waitress was wiping down menus behind the counter. Thomas came in looking casual, like he thought this might be about business or maybe family news. But as soon as he saw my face, he knew it was something else. "Sit down," I said. I did not offer my hand. I did not smile. I did not pretend. He slid into the booth across from me, and I could already see the tension start to build in his face. I took one of the surveillance photos out of an envelope and laid it on the table between us. It showed him and Melissa walking into a hotel together. "Explain that," I said. His face turned pale. He stared at the photograph for a long few seconds, then looked up at me with an expression that might have been shame. "Danny, 17 years, I cut in. For 17 years, you slept with my wife and looked me in the eye like nothing was happening. For 17 years, you sat around my family pretending to be a friend." He tried to say something, but I kept going. "Braden looks like you. I can see it now. Same eyes. Same jaw. I was blind, but I am not blind anymore. And the DNA test makes it real." Thomas looked down at the table. "It was never supposed to turn into this," he said quietly. I leaned forward. "But it did turn into this," I told him. "Not once. Not by accident. For years. So tell me something. Did you ever think about my father while you were with her? Did you think about what this would do to the man who trusted you more than almost anybody?" He still would not meet my eyes. "Robert does not have to know," he muttered. I laughed once, but there was nothing funny in it. "He already knows something is wrong," I said. "He tried to warn me before I figured it out." Then I stood up. "You have 48 hours to tell him yourself," I said. "If you do not, I will." I left him sitting there with the picture on the table, and I knew right then I would never look at him the same way again. As far as I was concerned, he was not a friend, not family, not even somebody from my past. He was a man who helped wreck my home. That afternoon, I drove to the high school. I asked to meet with Andrew Kane. It was one of the strangest moments of my life, standing in the front office trying to explain to a school administrator that I needed a private conversation with one of the teachers because he had been involved with my wife. A few minutes later, Andrew walked into a conference room. The second he saw my face, All that polished teacher confidence disappeared. "Mr. Hutchinson," he said carefully, "is this about Olivia's grades?" "No," I said. "This is about you sleeping with my wife." His whole face changed. "I think there has been some kind of misunderstanding," he said. "There is no misunderstanding," I told him. "I have photographs. I have hotel records. And I have a DNA test that says you are Olivia's biological father." He dropped into a chair like his legs had stopped working. He looked young in that moment. Not confident. Not professional. Just scared. 15 years ago, you got involved with a married woman, I said. Now you have spent time teaching your own daughter without anybody knowing the truth. "I did not know," he said, almost whispering it. "Melissa never told me." "Well, now you know," I said. "And now you get to decide how this goes. You can resign quietly, or this can become public." I walked out and left him there with that choice. By Monday morning, I figured the school would be looking for a new English teacher. That evening, I called all 4 kids into the living room. Melissa sat beside me, her face swollen from crying. She knew what was coming, and I knew this was going to be one of the worst moments of all our lives. I looked at my children and felt like my chest was caving in. "Your mother and I need to tell you something important," I said. Braden looked at me first. At 17, he already knew enough to read a room. "Are you getting divorced?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "But there is more." I took a breath and forced myself to say the rest. "I found out your mother has been involved with other men for a long time." Olivia gasped. Colton looked confused. Sophie did not fully understand, but she could tell this was serious. Then I said the part that changed everything. "Braden, your biological father is Thomas Walker." He stared at me like he had not heard right. I turned to Olivia. "And Olivia, your biological father is Andrew Kane." The room went completely still. Then Olivia started crying right away. Colton looked back and forth between all of us. "What does that mean?" "It means that Braden and Olivia have different biological fathers than you and Sophie," I said as gently as I could. "But hear me clearly. All 4 of you are my children. I have raised you. I love you. That does not change." Braden stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "Thomas," he said. "Grandpa Robert's friend Thomas?" "Yes," I said. Olivia's voice came out barely above a whisper. "My teacher." "Yes." Melissa finally spoke through tears. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. I never wanted you to find out like this." Braden turned toward her so fast it made Sophie flinch. "You lied to us our whole lives," he said. "Braden, please." "No," he snapped. "You let that man come into our house and act like family. You let everybody live in a lie." Olivia was crying harder now. "Did he know?" she asked. "Did Mr. Kane know?" "I do not think he knew back then," I said honestly. "But your mother did." Then the whole room came apart. Voices rose. Tears started. Colton and Sophie moved closer to me, scared by the way their older brother and sister were reacting. Braden stormed out of the room and slammed the front door hard enough to shake the windows. Olivia ran upstairs in tears. Melissa sat there crying harder than I had ever seen. I looked at her and said the only thing that felt true. "This is what betrayal looks like. Not just what you did to me, what you did to them." She covered her face with her hands. "How do we fix this?" she asked. "We do not," I said. "You broke something that does not go back the way it was." Later that night, I found Braden sitting on the front porch. I sat down beside him and did not say anything for a while. Finally, he looked over at me. "Am I still your son?" he asked. I turned and looked him right in the face. "You are absolutely my son," I said. "That does not change because of a test. Thomas gave you biology. I gave you a father. I raised you. I am your dad." His eyes filled up, and he nodded. "What happens now?" "Now we figure out how to keep going," I told him. "It is going to take time. It is going to be ugly. We are going to need help. But you are not alone in it." The next hard part was my father. My dad and Thomas had been close for 50 years. They had gone through war, bad years, family loss, money problems, and everything else life could throw at them. Breaking that kind of trust was going to hit him in a place deeper than friendship. I drove over to his house on Sunday morning. I found him in his workshop, bent over an old radio he had been restoring. The second he looked up, he knew something was wrong. "You look terrible," he said, setting his tools down. "Dad, we need to talk about Thomas," I said. His face hardened right away. "What about him?" I took one of the photographs out and handed it to him. It showed Melissa and Thomas together. "He has been sleeping with Melissa for 17 years, I said. "Braden is his son." All the color left my father's face. He stared at the photograph, then laid it down carefully on the workbench like it might explode if he moved too fast. "You are sure?" he asked. "I am sure," I said. "The DNA test confirms it. A private investigator tracked everything." I sat down nearby. "I am sorry," I told him. "I know what he meant to you." For a long time, he said nothing. Then, in a quiet voice that sounded older than I had ever heard, he said, 50 years. He shook his head slowly. 50 years of friendship. Through war. Through marriages. Through funerals. Through raising our families. I trusted him with everything. "I know." He kept staring at that picture. "Braden calls him Grandpa Tom," he said. All this time, anger started creeping into his voice then. "My grandson has been standing right in front of me, and all along that snake knew the truth." I had never seen my father look like that. He was a tough man. He had lived through things most people could not imagine. But this cut him in a different way. It was not just betrayal. It was humiliation, grief, and rage all mixed together. "What are you going to do?" I asked. He stood up slowly, jaw tight, eyes cold. "I am going to see him tonight," he said. "Dad," I said, rising from my chair, "maybe you should wait." My father looked at me and shook his head. "No," he said in a hard voice. "Thomas Walker wrecked your marriage, lied to me for 17 years, and stood there letting me treat his own biological son like he was my grandson. He is going to hear exactly what I think of him." That evening, my father called me from Thomas's house. "It is done," he said. His voice was calm, but I knew him well enough to hear the steel underneath it. "What happened?" I asked. "I told him exactly what kind of man he is," Dad said. 50 years of friendship gone in one night. He tried to apologize, tried to explain it away, said he never meant for anybody to get hurt. I told him that was a lie. I told him he was dead to me. "How did he take it?" "Like a coward," my father said with disgust. "He kept acting like this whole thing just happened on its own, like he slipped and fell into 17 years of betrayal. I told him if I ever see him again, there will be a problem." The next day, Thomas called me. "Danny, I need to talk to you about Braden," he said. "No," I told him. There was a silence on the line. "But he is my son," Thomas said. "He is my son," I said back, cutting him off before he could keep talking. "You do not get to show up now and pretend you have rights. You lost that chance when you lied for 17 years. I just want a relationship with him." "You should have thought about that before," I said. "As far as Braden is concerned, you are a stranger who helped destroy his family. If you try to go around me and contact him directly, you are going to have legal trouble, and I promise you will not enjoy it." That was the end of it. Thomas lost my father, lost any chance at having a place in Braden's life, and lost whatever respect people still had for him. For me, that was enough. I did not need revenge beyond the truth. My attorney's name was Jennifer Walsh. She was the kind of lawyer who could smile while cutting somebody to pieces. She handled high-asset divorces, and when I showed her the evidence Richard Sullivan had collected, along with the DNA results, she looked like Christmas had come early. "This is one of the strongest cases I have seen in a long time," she said, flipping through the file. "Multiple affairs, years of deception, paternity fraud. This gives us enormous leverage." "What does that mean for me?" I asked. "It means we protect everything that matters," she said. "Your business interests, your real estate, your retirement accounts. We can fight to keep your assets intact. The affairs are bad enough on their own. The deception about the children makes it much worse for her." Melissa hired her own lawyer, but from the beginning they were in a weak position. There was too much evidence, and they knew it. At our first mediation session, her attorney tried to sound reasonable. "My client is willing to accept a modest settlement in exchange for shared custody," he said. Jennifer actually laughed. "Your client carried on multiple affairs over many years and committed paternity fraud," she said. "She is fortunate Mr. Hutchinson is handling this in family court instead of looking for every other legal option available to him." Melissa ignored the lawyers and looked straight at me. "What do you want?" she asked. I looked right back at her. "I want primary custody of Colton and Sophie," I said. "You can have supervised visitation. The business stays mine. You keep the house and your car. Nothing more." Her face twisted. "That is not fair." I leaned forward. "Fair," I said. "Was it fair to lie to me for 17 years? Was it fair to let me raise other men's children while you carried on behind my back?" She had no answer for that. Her lawyer leaned over and whispered something to her. probably explaining that fighting harder was only going to make things worse. The divorce was final 6 weeks later. I kept the business. I got primary custody of Colton and Sophie. Melissa walked away with the house, her car, and very little else. Her reputation was in pieces, and that was something no court could repair for her. What surprised me most was what happened next. Braden chose to live with me. "You are the only dad I have ever known," he told me. "I do not care what a DNA test says. You raised me. That makes you my father." Olivia made the same choice. "Andrew Kane may be my biological father," she said, "but he is not my dad. You are." Not long after that, we moved into a new house on the other side of town. It was smaller than the one we had before, but it felt clean in a way our old place never could again. There were no ghosts in the walls. No memories hanging in every room. The kids started therapy. They needed it. There was too much pain, too much confusion, too much anger for any of us to pretend we could just move on overnight. But they were stronger than I expected. And I think having one parent they knew they could trust helped more than anything else. About 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Andrew Kane at a grocery store. He had quit teaching and was working at a bookstore downtown. "Danny," he said when he saw me. He looked nervous. "How is Olivia doing?" he asked. "She is doing fine," I said. "She is my daughter, and she is doing just fine." He looked down at the floor. "I think about her a lot," he said. "Maybe one day." "No," I said. He looked up. "You gave up whatever chance you might have had when you slept with a married woman and helped create this mess. Stay away from my family." He nodded once and walked off without another word. That night, Olivia asked me about it after she heard from one of her friends that I had seen him. "What did he say?" she asked. "He asked how you were doing." I told her. She sat quiet for a second. "Do you think he actually cares?" I thought about it before answering. "I think he feels guilty," I said. "But guilt does not make someone a father. Showing up does. Loving you does. Raising you does." She came over and hugged me. And in that moment, I knew we were going to make it. 2 years after the divorce, life had settled into a rhythm I never would have appreciated before all this happened. My restaurant business was doing better than ever. We opened 3 more locations, and I promoted my longtime employee, Stephen, to regional manager. Success felt different now. Before, I chased it like I was trying to prove something. Now I saw it for what it really was, a tool to build a stable life for the people I loved. The kids were healing. Braden graduated from high school and enrolled at State University to study business administration. He told me he wanted to join the company one day. During one of our weekly dinners, he looked across the table at me and said, "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Anything," I said. "Do you ever regret raising Olivia and me, knowing we are not biologically yours?" I put my fork down and looked at him. "Braden, you and Olivia are 2 of the best things that ever happened to me," I said. "Blood does not decide love. The years matter. Teaching you to drive mattered. Helping you with homework mattered. Cheering for you mattered. Those things made you my son long before any test ever said otherwise." He nodded slowly, like he needed to hear it out loud one more time. Olivia, who was 17 by then and doing great in her senior year, came through her worst period stronger than before. She was applying to colleges, performing with her drama club, and dating a kind boy who treated her well. Colton and Sophie adjusted faster than anyone. They barely remembered life before the divorce after a while. They made friends in the new neighborhood, got comfortable in the new house, and kept being kids, which honestly felt like a blessing. My father bounced back better than I expected too. Losing a friend of 50 years hurt him deeply, but my dad was made of stronger material than most people knew. He found a new poker group, started volunteering at the Veterans Center downtown, and kept moving forward. One afternoon, he looked at me and said, "You did the right thing, Danny. You stood up for your family. You protected those kids. That is what a man does when everything around him falls apart." I started dating again too. Nothing serious at first. Coffee, dinners, quiet conversations with women who appreciated honesty and did not play games. It felt good to trust my own instincts again. Then one evening, while I was sitting in my home office looking over financial reports, a strange thought hit me. I was happy. Not fake happy. Not the kind of happiness a man talks himself into because he is too scared to face the truth. Real happiness. Calm. Solid. Honest. My business was strong. My children were doing well. And I had learned something I should have learned much earlier. Comfort built on lies is not peace. Truth hurts, but at least it is real. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a man is finding out what he is made of after everything he counted on falls apart. Now 5 years have passed since the weekend Melissa came back from Indianapolis glowing like she had found a brand new life. That weekend turned out to be the beginning of the end for all her lies. And if I am being honest, learning the truth was the best thing that ever happened to me. My restaurant company now stretches across 6 states. We are up to 38 locations, bringing in millions every year. But that is not the part one cares about most anymore. What matters most is what it became for my family. Braden graduated from college and joined the company as operations manager. He is smart, steady, and hardworking. Every day he reminds me that character means more than blood ever will. Olivia finished her 2nd year at Northwestern, studying journalism. She says she wants to be an investigative reporter because she saw what happens when people stop asking questions and accept convenient lies. She calls me every Sunday like clockwork. Colton is 17 now and the star pitcher on his high school baseball team. College scouts have already started calling. Sophie is 14 and has more business sense than most adults. She runs a little pet sitting service in the neighborhood and keeps detailed notes on every customer like she is already planning her own company. My father passed away peacefully last year at 77. His final words to me were simple. You raised good kids, Danny. I am proud of the man you became. He never made peace with Thomas, and I respected that. Some things do not deserve reconciliation. 2 years ago, I married a woman named Sarah. She is a veterinarian, divorced too, and she understands what it means to rebuild life on honesty instead of illusion. She loves my kids without forcing anything, and they love her right back because she is real. Melissa remarried a businessman from another state. From what I hear, money has been tight for them, and she barely has much contact with the kids. Braden and Olivia see her once in a while, but they understand who showed up for them and who did not. Thomas moved to Florida and died there last year. Neither my father nor I went to the funeral. Braden did go, though. That told me everything I needed to know about the kind of man he had become. He showed more grace than Thomas ever showed anybody. Andrew Kane left teaching for good and works in retail now. He has never tried to contact Olivia again. I think he finally understood that some damage cannot be undone. A lot of men think strength means never hurting. They think it means controlling everything and refusing to look weak. What I learned is different. Real strength is looking straight at the truth even when it tears you open. Real strength is protecting the people you love, even when biology says you do not have to. Real strength is building a better life out of the mess somebody else made. My children know I will always tell them the truth, even when the truth is painful. That is the legacy I care about most. Not the restaurants, not the money, not the expansion. The real legacy is raising children who understand that integrity matters more than comfort. That conference Melissa came back from with that shining look on her face ended up exposing exactly who she was. And in the end, it showed me exactly who I could become.